everyone, and welcome back to a brand new Pokemon TCG video. Before we start today's video, guys, I want to give a brief thank you to Dark Integral Gaming for having taken the time to create a intro for my channel. I'm not really sure whether or not I will be using it, so I'd like to ask you guys' opinion for it. So I will be including a link to the video down below where you guys can take a look at the intro that Dark Integral Gaming had made for me. Also want to recommend you guys to check out his channel. Has some pretty cool videos, focuses on a couple of different games, but there is some PTCGO videos as well in case you guys want to check it out. Pretty great channel. Again, a massive thank you to you, Dark Integral Gaming. So I'd like to hear you guys' feedback with respects to whether or not you guys would like me to include this as sort of an intro to my channel. If not, then I'll eventually get around to creating one myself. But again, right now I have been a little bit busy, so not really sure when I will be getting around to that. But anyways, today's video is going to be focusing on us taking a look at the Double Crisis set release. So this is a mini set, only has approximately 34 cards or something like that, I believe. But I'm going to be taking a brief look at it, so we'll be examining every cards, some of them in very brief detail because they're not really all that feasible. Other cards we'll be taking a look at a little bit more just because I feel like there may be some potential to them. Now, just my overall sort of impression of this brief set, I feel like it's a not a whole lot of playable cards. I mean, for the most part, these cards are tailored to players who want to focus specifically on building a Team Aqua or Team Magma type of deck. So I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the most competitive sort of mini set that has been released. However, I do see some potential with some of the cards. But anyways, let's go right ahead and discuss the cards that will be coming out in approximately a few more hours with the Pokemon TCG ends its maintenance. So to start off, Team Magma's normal doesn't really need a whole lot of discussion. I mean, the whole purpose of the normal is that it's going to eventually evolve into the Camerupt. And Team Magma's Camerupt, I can see a little bit of playability with it. Its Burning Draft ability, in case you guys are unable to see it, is that it allows us to, once during our turn, search for a discarded fighting or fire type energy and then attach it to this Pokemon. Now, doesn't seem all that impressive because, I mean, Flame Ball is only able to hit for 60 damage. And then we are at the very least able to transfer an energy card from this Pokemon to another one of our bench Pokemon, but it seems like a relatively easy knockout. Doesn't seem like that much of a playable Pokemon, and I would completely agree. However, one Pokemon that comes to mind that could potentially work quite nicely with him is the Primal Clash Electros with the Energy Connect ability. Now this could potentially be a very devastating combo, in my opinion, such that, for example, if we're using a Primal Kyogre EX, Primal Groudon EX type of deck, or a Medicham deck, for example, well, we can use Camerupt to repeatedly fetch those discarded fire or fighting type energy cards from our discard pile and then attach them to the Camerupt. Then Electros can go right ahead and attach them to our active Pokemon. So definitely can see a little bit of possibilities. Probably one of the better cards in this set. But let's go on and discuss some of the other cards. So Spheal and Celio, not really going to be needing any sort of mentioning. Don't really foresee them as being used at all. I mean, they have some relatively poor attacks. The Pokemon that we do want to take a look at, however, though, is the Team Aqua's Walrein. This Pokemon is not exactly the greatest. I don't really foresee it being played all that much either. Power Blow allows us to hit 30 damage times the number of energy cards attached to this Pokemon. Could be good, but let's take a look at some of the drawbacks. For example, Dual Blizzard, I don't really foresee it as being that good of an attack either. I mean, it requires a massive 4 energy cards. Again, one of the energy cards that have been released with this set, though, the Team Aqua's Double Water Energy, I believe it's called, and Team Magma's Double Fighting Energy or something like that. We'll be discussing that. Those could potentially make this deck somewhat, the Walrein somewhat viable. But Power Blow on its own, I mean, just to compare it to the to the Primal Clash Huntail. I mean, Huntail is a stage 1 Pokemon and is able to hit for 20 damage times the number of energy cards attached to all of our Pokemon. Walrein, on the other hand, is a stage 2 Pokemon, and Power Blow is only able to hit for 30 damage times each of the energy cards attached to him in particular. I mean, we could potentially see a Blastoise Deluge sort of combination being used, but I don't really see that happening. Dual Blizzard, on the other hand, requires us to discard 2 water energy cards. very weak in my opinion. I mean, it could potentially be used with the special energy card that has been released with the set, which again I will be discussing a little bit later. But again, I don't really see Walrein as being the greatest Pokemon. Now, the Team Aqua's Kyogre EX, first of all, it has an atrocious ability. I mean, the Power Saver ability requires us to have at least 4 or more Team Aqua Pokemon in play for us to actually be able to attack. So that is downright awful, because that means that you have to tailor your deck to be a Team Aqua type of deck. Otherwise, the Kyogre EX is unable to attack at all. Aqua Impact, on the other hand, is very energetically expensive, so requires a massive 4 energy attachments. 3 of them have to be water, and is only able to hit for 80 damage with an additional 20 damage times the number of energy cards and our opponent's active Pokemon. Number of energy cards that it would take for our opponent's active Pokemon to be able to retreat. So if they have 2 stars as their retreat cost, for example, then Aqua Impact is able to hit for 120 damage. Now, this card could be good if we use it in combination with Silent Lab to shut down the Kyogre EX's awful ability. It does have a relatively solid 190 HP as well, but not exactly the greatest Pokemon in my opinion. Don't really think we'll be seeing a whole lot of play with him. I mean, it could potentially be feasible with the special energy card that had come out, but again, not really feeling this card all that much. Now, to discuss the Team Aqua's Grimer, pretty weak basic Pokemon. It's going to evolve into the Team Aqua's Muck. I can actually see Muck being a very playable card. So the Sludge Festival increases the retreat cost of each Pokemon in play except for Team Aqua Pokemon. So Pester is not a good attack, so we wouldn't really want to be using it all that much. But the Sludge Festival, I can actually see it being quite nice. Decks that, number one, I mean, the downfall is that it's restricted to Team Aqua Pokemon not having their retreat cost increased. However, if we have, for example, the Keldeo EX with a Floatstone or some sort of deck like that, then the Team Aqua's Muck will not be affecting us negatively in any sort of way, so we can use it as just sort of a tech Pokemon just to make life a little bit more difficult for our opponents. Probably, again, one of the better Pokemon that are coming out in this set, at least in my opinion. But again, don't really see him being too playable. I do, however, see some very cool strategies being possibly made with the Sludge Festival. I mean, for example, we can use the Team Aqua's Muck in combination with the Kyogre EX such that the Aqua Impact attack is able to dish out a little bit more damage. So kind of a cool strategy, but again, don't really see it as being all that playable of a card. Now, this, the next card, the Team Aqua Seviper, is actually one of the cards that I personally like the most in this set. I actually see a lot of competitive potential, namely speaking, not exactly with its Venomous Fang attack, which is only able to hit for 10 damage and then possibly poison our opponent's Pokemon. No, the Venom Tail attack is the one that I'm kind of impressed with. So what it does is that it allows us to hit our opponent. I mean, if our opponent's active Pokemon is affected by any special condition, then we're able to immediately discard an energy card attached to that Pokemon. I see a whole lot of potential to this card. So for example, if we can use it in combination with Hypnotoxic Lasers, well, we're also able to immediately discard an energy card attached to our opponent's Pokemon. We can also use it in combination with Pokemon such as Munna, the Victory Bell, Malamar EX, which I think is another very solid option that could potentially be paired with the Team Aqua Seviper. Again, probably one of the Pokemon that I'm actually the most excited about. Feel like it can actually have a lot of competitive potential with respects to just being able to fit in a whole lot of different decks, especially given the fact that the Venom Tail attack only requires double colorless energy, so we don't necessarily need to make our deck such that it's restricted only to Psychic type Pokemon. Now, not really going to be discussing the Team Magma's Baltoy, but the Team Magma's Claydol is not exactly the best Pokemon in my opinion. I mean, once during our turn, the Magma Switch ability is such that once during our turn before we attack, we're able to move a basic energy card from one of our Pokemon to another one of our Team Magma Pokemon. Again, this is a very restrictive sort of ability in that we would have to essentially build a very Team Magma based deck for us to be able to use this ability. Doesn't really give it a whole lot of playability, again, just because I don't feel like the cards from the set are exactly the greatest, so I don't really foresee the Team Magma's Claydol as being all that great of a Pokemon. And its Power Beam attack is relatively weak as well, requires 3 energy cards, and is only able to hit for 70 damage, so again, not exactly the best Pokemon. Team Magma's Aron we will be overlooking, again, just a basic Pokemon, nothing really special about it, so let's move on to the next page, guys. And okay, so discussing again Team Magma's Lairon, we're not really going to be taking a look at either, not really meant to be a sort of competitive Pokemon. Team Magma's Aggron, again a Pokemon that I'm not exactly all that impressed with. I mean, the Rock Stomp attack allows us to discard as many fighting type energy cards attached to all of our Pokemon, and then this allows us to hit for 40 damage times the number of fighting energies we ultimately discarded. I mean, this could be used in combination with the Camerupt, because Camerupt is able to fetch out those fighting type and fire type energies from our discard pile, and then it could potentially be used to hit a whole lot of damage with the Team Magma's Aggron. But given the fact that it is a stage 2 Pokemon and the Rock Stomp attack in itself also requires 2 energy cards for us to even be able to attack with it, again, doesn't make me seem like it's that much of a playable card. I mean, Rock Stomp would be somewhat viable in my opinion if it only required a single energy card, but I mean, you'd need 2 energy cards on it and then potentially some additional energy cards on our bench Pokemon as well, just to be able to use the Rock Stomp to the best of our abilities. So not exactly the best Pokemon. Boulder Storm, just a horrible attack, requires a massive 4 energy cards, only hits for 120 damage, and then it allows us to hit for 20 damage to each of our opponent's bench Pokemon, but still just such an energetically expensive attack that I don't see it as being feasible whatsoever. So my overall impression of the Team Magma's Aggron is downright negative for the most part. Now, the Team Magma's Groudon EX, a Pokemon that I can actually see some playability with. So again, it has the Power Saver ability, which is just as bad as the one that we had taken a look at with respects to the Team Aqua's Kyogre EX. So this requires us to have a whole ton of Team Magma Pokemon, otherwise the Groudon EX is unable to attack. Again, we can shut off this negative attack through the usage of Silent Lab, and possibly just to try and keep that Silent Lab in play, we can bring out a Ninetales, the one with the Stadium Lock, and then this Groudon EX can be a little bit more playable. So the Magma Quake attack, very energetically expensive, requires 4 energies, but it's able to hit for an additional 80 damage, so that's 160 damage if any of our opponent's Pokemon have any damage counters to them already. So should be relatively easy to get damage counters on our opponent's Pokemon. So for example, if we attach a Rocky Helmet on our Groudon EX, well then ideally in the next turn we would be able to perform those massive one-hit EX knockouts. For the most part, there's a whole lot of other sorts of cards that we could be using in combination with the Groudon EX. So pretty solid attack, very energetically expensive, and a downright awful ability. So, but nonetheless, I can see a bit of playability with him. So possibly one of the better cards that are coming out of this set. Now we're going to be ignoring the Poochyena. The Mightyena, I'm not really going to discuss either. Personally, I don't really think they're feasible Pokemon, so I will be ignoring them. You guys can feel free to take a look at it yourselves. The Carvanha, I don't really think needs a whole lot of discussing. The Sharpedo, on the other hand, though, is could be a bit of a good Pokemon. I mean, its Aqua Search ability allows us to search our deck for any Team Aqua Pokemon and then allows us to put it into our hand. So could be kind of feasible just in allowing that Team Aqua's Kyogre EX, for example, to be able to dish out a whole lot of damage. I mean, it could potentially work in such a manner that we could make a full Team Aqua deck viable, but for the most part, again, not a very generally impressive Pokemon. Now, the Team Magma Zangoose, don't really see this as the greatest Pokemon as well. It's somewhat similar to the Sharpedo. I mean, somewhat similar in that the Culfer family allows us to look for any Team Magma Pokemon. Team Magma Pokemon, by the way, guys. So this is very restrictive, and that we can then put those Team Magma Pokemon in our bench. Team Play, again, not exactly the greatest attack either. Requires 3 energies for us to be able to attack it. I mean, yeah, you could use it in combination with the double colorless energy, but I mean, it caps at a total of 120 damage and just a rather weak 90 HP Pokemon. So again, don't really see it as being all that playable. Now, the Team Magma Pointer and Team Aqua Diffuser item cards, My goodness, these are some atrociously bad trainer cards in my opinion. Again, just because the Aqua Diffuser is I mean, it's essentially a tool card that can be attached to Team Aqua Pokemon only, and Aqua Diffuser can be used as sort of an attack. So, for example, such as the G Booster attachment on the Genesect EX. And to do the usage of Aqua Diffuser, our opponent's active Pokemon would now be confused and poisoned. It does require, however, a water energy for us to be able to use it. I mean, if it didn't require any energy cards, then I could see a little bit of playability with respects to these cards, but it requires a very, very specific water energy. So, again, I'm not sure. I mean, Aqua Diffuser could potentially be played because confusing and poisoning our opponent's Pokemon could be used, for example, in combination with the Dragalge and a whole lot of other cards. But however, it is our attack for the turn, so I'm not particularly pleased with it. So my overall impression of it is slightly negative, but I could again see it being used. The Magma Pointer though is downright negative just because it's an awful attachment. I mean, Magma Pointer allows any Team Magma Pokemon that have this attachment, and then we can use this as our attack, and this attack allows us to hit for 20 damage to one of our opponent's Pokemon. That's just awful. I mean, I'm not really sure what sort of deck would like to use this as an attack. So again, I don't really see Magma Pointer being used in any sort of strategy whatsoever. Aqua Diffuser, however, though, I could potentially see it as being somewhat feasible, especially in combination with the Team Aqua's Kyogre EX, for example, because it does take quite a bit of energy cards for it to get going. So Aqua Diffuser could potentially be used while we do power up our Kyogre EX. Alright, so discussing some of the other items, guys. I mean, now we've moved on to all of the Pokemon that have been released with this set. So now we're going to be taking a look at some of the supporter and the special energy cards, which is probably the cards that I'm most impressed with, but very, very restrictive. But anyways, so the Team Aqua admin allows us to look for any basic energy card from our discard pile and then to attach them to our active Team Aqua Pokemon. Again, this is I mean, this is a decent supporter card, very restrictive though in that it can only work for Team Aqua Pokemon. Again, my overall impressions of Team Aqua and the Team Magma Pokemon that have been coming out of this set is generally rather negative, so I don't really see this set as being all that playable. However, I do think that the Team Aqua admin can be a very, very nice card, especially if you guys are interested in just testing out a couple of fun decks that involve Team Aqua or Team Magma Pokemon. So Team Aqua admin is a pretty cool card. We can potentially use it to attach a single energy card that we can go right ahead and fetch from our discard pile and then attach it to one of our active Team Aqua Pokemon. And then we can also use it, for example, in combination with the double Aqua energy, so we can attach up to 3 energy cards in a given turn. So that's pretty solid for the most part. So a pretty feasible supporter card in my opinion. Now the Team Aqua Grunt allows us to discard a card from our hand and then we're able to draw 3 cards. If we discarded a Team Aqua Pokemon, then we're able to draw an additional card. Not a good card by any means. I mean, we can use cards such as the Cheren, for example, or the Tierno, which essentially do the same thing. I mean, Team Aqua Grunt does have the, I guess, a slightly uniqueness in that if we discard particularly a Team Aqua Pokemon, we are able to draw onto an additional card, but I would much rather be using some of the more traditional draw supporter type cards. Cards such as Juniper, Colress, or the N, for example, are much more feasible than Team Aqua Grunt. So again, I don't really see this as being a card that's really going to be used all that much. The Team Aqua's Great Ball is again, very restricted. This whole set seems to be sort of only favoring itself. So again, not a whole lot of playability with a lot of other types of decks. However, Team Aqua's Great Ball is a pretty cool card. It allows us to search for any basic Team Aqua Pokemon. Again, the keyword being basic, so I would personally prefer cards such as the Dive Ball or the Ultra Ball. And it also allows us to search for a basic water energy card. Could be good in combination with, again, the Kyogre EX that is coming out with respects to the set. But again, overall, not exactly the greatest card. However, if you are tailoring a deck that is very specific to Team Aqua Pokemon, this can be a pretty nice staple item card to include in this sort of deck. Now, Team Aqua's Secret Base allows us to increase the retreat cost of each Pokemon in play. except of course Team Aqua Pokemon. This is meant of course to be used in combination with the Kyogre EX, so very specific. Once again, can be used in combination with that Muck as well. So if we have a couple of Mucks and then the Team Aqua secret base, that could potentially allow that Kyogre EX to perform those big one-hit EX knockouts. But then again, that means that our deck has to be very specifically Team Aqua based for this card to really be used. I mean, if our deck is, however, a deck that is tailored to Team Aqua type Pokemon for the most part, this is a very solid Stadium card. Now, to discuss the Team Magma supporter and item cards that are coming out with this set, guys, the Team Magma admin allows us to look for 3 Team Magma Pokemon from our discard pile and then put it into our hand. I have pretty negative feelings with respects to this card for the most part. I mean, the fact that it's from our discard pile, this requires us to have quite a bit of Pokemon in our discard pile in the first place, so I don't really see a whole lot of playability with it. I mean, it could be used in combination with the Battle Compressor, for example, and then it can also be used with the Zangoose to allow it to hit for some more damage. But again, my overall impression of this as a supporter card is not exactly the greatest. I could see a bit of playability with it, however, though, but again, very restrictive, so I don't see it as a card that we'll really be seeing a whole lot of. So the Team Magma Grunt is, I believe it's the same thing. It's discard a card from our hand. Yeah, so it's very similar to the Team Aqua Grunt card. You essentially draw up to 3 cards. If you discard a Team Magma Pokemon as well, you're able to draw an additional card as well. Again, not a very good supported card. I would personally never recommend it over the usage of cards such as the N, again the Juniper or the Colorist, things like that. So my overall impressions of these supporter cards with respects to the set are pretty negative for the most part. Team Magma's Great Ball is, again, very similar to the Team Aqua's Great Ball. It allows us to search for a basic Team Magma Pokemon in this case, of course, because it is a Team Magma Ball. And it also allows us to search for a basic Fighting type energy from our deck as well. So, again, can be a nice card, especially in combination with the Groudon EX, for example, that is coming out with respects to this set. But again, very restrictive for the most part. If you are, however, using a deck that tailors to Team Magma Pokemon for the most part, it's a very solid staple card, and I can see a whole lot of playability with respects to it. Team Magma's Secret Base is another very solid Stadium card. Again, if you are going to be making a deck that tailors specifically in with respects to Team Magma Pokemon, so this allows us to look for, this makes it such that whenever our opponent attach an energy card, whenever any player puts a basic Pokemon from, my apologies, I read that wrong initially. So my initial reading of it was that I believe that you had to attach an energy card, but what it actually is that whenever any player puts a basic Pokemon from their hand into their bench, 2 damage counters are put on top of that Pokemon. Again, this is meant to increase the playability of the of the Groudon EX that has been released with the set. So very specific. Once again, Team Magma Pokemon are thankfully able to avoid the damage with respects to the Stadium card, so I can actually see a bit of playability with it. Again, it's meant to increase the fighting prowess of the Team Magma's Groudon EX. However, if you're trying to use it for some other strategies, such as the Skarmory EX, I can actually see this card being used as well, because Skarmory EX is able to hit for a whole lot more damage if any Pokemon have some damage counters on them. I can also see this being used with the Feraligatr, for example, that had come out with the Phantom Forces set. So I actually think that this is a bit of a more expandable Stadium card, just because it can be used with a couple of other decks as opposed to solely being restricted to Team Magma or Team Aqua Pokemon as well. I mean, I also feel like that's somewhat the case with the Team Aqua Secret Base as well, just because we can use it in combination with us running, for example, Demox and then a Caldeo EX deck, and not necessarily running a deck that specifically tailors to Team Aqua Pokemon per se. Now, the very last 2 cards that I will be discussing, guys, are going to be the Special Energies. Probably the nicest cards to come out with respects to this set. So the Double Aqua Energy is pretty much exactly what the title sort of suggests, is that it acts as a double water energy if it is attached to Team Aqua Pokemon. I mean, if it's attached to any other Pokemon, then this card automatically goes to the discard pile. So again, very restrictive. The Double Magma Energy essentially functions as the same thing. These cards are, of course, meant to be used in combination with the cards that have been released with this set. These are some of the cards that may actually give this set a bit of playability. Again, very, very restrictive though, but if you are running a deck that runs Team Aqua or Team Magma Pokemon, these are some very solid cards. So again, my overall impressions of the set are that it's absolutely not going to be a game changer. People may be using a few specific cards in the set to try and tailor to specific sorts of combinations, such as, again, the Team Magma's Secret Base to be used in combination with the Skarmory EX, for example, or the Team Aqua's Secret Base just to make retreating a little bit more difficult for opponent's Pokemon. But again, not exactly the greatest set to be released. It is a mini set, however, though, only 34 cards coming out, so pretty cool. I am excited for it. I'm sure you guys will be as well. Again, this video, I hope you guys found it helpful. This was, again, just my overall impressions. The card that I personally very much found to be the one with the most potential was the Seviper. I can see a whole lot of playability with it in combination with a whole lot of decks, so that's the card that I was personally the most impressed with. And it's a basic 90 HP Pokemon, just very, very versatile. But most of the other cards in this set, I don't really see them as having a whole lot of playability. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy this video or found it helpful, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And again, please do let me know, guys, how you found that intro by Dark Integral Gaming to be, if you're planning on checking it out. Again, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.